whatever. We're going with it. We're gonna start this thing. Okay, it is my second time creating a travel YouTube video for you guys, just because apparently I like to talk about traveling and about the tips that I'm giving. I realize that they don't fit into your quick little Instagram story 15-minute reel, and no one has time to click through 16 stories of me talking about my own opinion. So this is why I'm making YouTube videos. Okay, so today we're talking about regional versus main carrier airline companies. I'm gonna just put a little disclaimer out there. I am not saying that either one is good or bad. I'm saying that these are my own personal opinions, whether it's certain airline companies I've traveled with or just in general, what I prioritize when I'm traveling is different than what you prioritize. So if you are looking for the cheapest deal and you're willing to sacrifice everything for that cheap deal, then great. We can talk about airline companies that will do that. Just know that you pay for what you get you pay for what you get. There you go. And with that being said, a lot of times you're gonna end up with, if you go with cheaper options, crappier times that you're gonna fly. So just keep that all in mind. But when it comes to the actual airline company itself or the flights that you're choosing, these are some of the things that, just opinions or things that I look for. So the first thing is that I look for the on-time arrival percentage. This is something that transportation.gov actually shows you the air travel consumer report for 2018. So you can go and find this online if you don't believe me that I'm telling you the stats. So it says here the highest on-time arrival percentages overall by the airline company, not just the individual flight. This is, all their flights all together, would be Delta Airlines. Their on-time arrival rate is 87.9%. Pretty good. Right below that's Alaska Airlines at 85, and then United Airlines at 84.7. So kind of surprising. I'm an American Airlines customer. I have a credit card. I typically try to fly American just because it's good to stay consistent with a certain airline company. But they're not on this list. So it's very surprising. I have noticed myself starting to fly United more often. I'm taking United over to San Francisco, and then I'm doing Southwest to San Diego. So interesting that, some of those airline companies I like to use are not on this top 3 list. Haven't had issues, but this is all their flights overall. The lowest on-time arrival rates, Envoy Air at 70%. Right behind that, PSA Airlines at 72. And then in the third worst on-time arrival overall for a company, Frontier Airlines. So 73.8%. Being the worst batch, the difference of on-time arrival percentage actually isn't that far off though. So if you look at United Airlines at 84.7, 10% difference. Doesn't seem like that much, but it matters when it comes to your connection time. It matters when you only have a couple days somewhere. If you're going for a long weekend and your flight's delayed, then that cuts into some, really good quality time that you would have had. So to me, the on-time arrival percentage matters. It's something that I do pay attention to. You can actually look it up by each individual flight. So I actually typed in a Tampa to San Francisco flight path with American Airlines because that's who I was looking up the majority of the time when I was looking at my flights to go to SFO. This one is showing it goes to ORD, so that's Chicago. So it's going to Chicago and then Chicago over to San Francisco from Tampa. The first flight that goes from Tampa to Chicago has a 64% arrival time. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but 64% is not good, especially if it's a connection. So if I'm supposed to be going to Chicago, I'm 64% on time. I mean, the weatherman is almost more accurate than that. So it does say late 18%. I ignored the late part because I think that that's kind of a skewed, percentage. But what I'll say is that, let's say I took this flight and I knew it's a 64% arrival time percentage, if my flight gets in late and I miss my next connection, that's kind of on me. So then I have to also look up and see how much time is my connection time. This one shows an hour and 16 minutes. That's pretty good, pretty standard. It gives you that buffer that if the flight is late, then you can, run to your next gate. You hope that they're kind of close together. But let's say it's not, you need that time to be able to get across. Chicago is a pretty big airport. So that's the first thing. Keep in mind your on-time arrival percentage. The second thing I want to say is read the fine print. I had a friend message me on Instagram after my flight hack deals last week. She sent me this great message. Hey, Sarah, you should be telling your followers and telling all your friends that I got this great deal with Frontier Airlines. She said she was going with her family of 4 to San Juan from Tampa, so not that far, but still going over international waters technically, and she got her family of 4 for $600. That's what she said. So I said, okay, awesome. Like, that's such a good deal. Can you send me the information? I would love to share this. And I started to do some research. When we broke it down, it turns out in the fine print, the Kids Fly Free advertisement that they had didn't apply for this specific flight. Well, there you go. Now you got 2 extra tickets you got to pay for. So that jumped it up to closer to, $1,000. Then we talked about, okay, well, that doesn't include your seats being together. As a family with kids, you want your seats together. You want the opportunity to be able to pick that. Well, now you got to pay to sit together. Okay, add that. Now we're looking at $1,100. Then bags. So bags are not free. So then we had to factor in the cost for the bags. Each one of them bringing a checked bag, maybe a carry-on. Sometimes they charge for that. Okay, great. Now we're looking at near, $1,200 to $1,300, and the times themselves weren't exactly the best. It was a nonstop flight, but it didn't get them into San Juan till like 11 o'clock at night. So in the end, a $600 flight, so they thought, is actually double that once they read the fine print. So that is just one example. I went actually and looked up some other airline companies just to see if it was still the best deal to take that airline company, even though it was, almost double of what they originally thought they were going to pay. I wanted to do some extra research. The closest price was Southwest, which, your bags, you get 2 checked free, so they wouldn't have to pay for that. And then obviously you pick your seat when you get there. But families do get to board priority, which is great that they do that to help them out. So that flight with Southwest for all 4 of them, bags, seats, everything, was around $1,400, also nonstop. So in the end, it would come down to if they were willing to drive, again, they were going to have to drive to Orlando for this Frontier flight deal. So I said, that $200 that you're going to save by driving to Orlando, maybe that's not worth it. You got to pay for the car in the airport parking lot, your gas to get over there, unless you have someone that that you can leave your car with and have them take you to the airport. So read the fine print. That goes for, on the main carrier side too, this basic economy. That's becoming a new thing. And I will say, I think it's helpful if you are going for quick weekends, you don't need to check a bag, all that stuff. But just know that fine print of you can't change your flight on a basic economy. If you had, regular standard economy, you can change your flight for a fee on the main carriers. So just know that, let's say you're getting a deal, but you end up having to change your flight. Well, then you just lost all that money because you had the restrictive version. So read your fine print. Number 3. To me, regional, again, like this is personal opinion, but to me, regional, I read it as restricted. You are restricted on what days you can fly. You're restricted on choosing your seat. You're restricted on bags that you can take. You're restricted on so many different things that in the end, to me, it's stressful. If you know exactly what you want, if you're like, yes, I'm going here, I know I'm only going to take 1 checked bag, I don't care about my seat, I'm okay with the days that they're flying, then great, that's awesome. The example I give is Allegiant Airlines. I take them a lot to North Carolina because it's the cheapest deal going. But with that being said, they only fly on certain days. So typically right now to go to Charlotte from Tampa, they fly on like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, I can't go taking, a Friday off of work every single time I want to go to Charlotte. That's just not feasible. So in the end, I usually have to do like one way with Southwest or American or someone else up, and then I take the Allegiant Sunday flight back. But with that being said, it's never consistent, and there's only one time that they'll travel that day. So whatever flight time that they choose for this Sunday, whether it's at 8 a.m. or 5 p.m., that's what you get stuck with. And then again, on-time arrival percentage. So you got that one flight, let's say something happens, then you're kind of SOL because it's the only flight that you have. It's the only option. So you're kind of bound to whatever that airline company is doing. So to me, regional just feels restricted. I don't like that. But if I know where I'm going, if I know that it's a short trip, I'm just looking for a great deal, then yes, I do fly regional at times. But I just don't like the restriction on that. We're on 4 now, I think. I would say, again, when you're looking at regionals, look at what airport you're flying out of. So another story time, I again take Allegiant to North Carolina to Charlotte. Concord Airport is actually where Allegiant flies into, not Charlotte Douglas, which is the main Charlotte International Airport. Those are on opposite sides of the city. And mind you, Concord, North Carolina is about a 40-minute drive to get into actual Charlotte proper, versus the Charlotte Airport is about a 20-minute Uber into Uptown, which is their version of downtown. So in the end, let's say you got a deal, you fly Allegiant up to Charlotte, you get off the plane and you're in Concord, North Carolina. You got to get yourself an Uber now. That's an extra fee. If you needed a rental car, obviously that's a factor. So usually if I fly Allegiant, then I'm probably going to get a rental car because the Uber would be just as much to and from the airport. So then you get a rental car. So then you got to factor that in. Does your hotel have free parking? You got to factor that in now. So a lot of times it can be stressful if you don't really realize where your airport is located, depending on what city you're in. It goes for main carriers though too. So I was looking at flights for San Francisco. Obviously I'm going Memorial Day weekend, and I wasn't sure which airport to fly into. So in San Francisco, you actually have the Oakland airport, and then you have SFO, which is actually in the southern, like near like the bottom part of the Bay Area. So it's about a 30 to 45 minute ride from SFO to get into downtown San Francisco, whereas at the Oakland airport, it's about a 20-minute ride. So Oakland's actually closer to downtown San Francisco, and I knew that, but I also knew that with that, it's a more expensive flight. So for me, I'm still flying into SFO. I'll probably take the BART. I'm gonna try it this time. Last time I just did a shared Uber, and it wasn't bad. It was probably $15 to $20, I think, when we went, and it was another couple, and they had a hotel nearby us, so the Uber just drops off both in nearby locations, and so that was great for us. It was fine. Since it's just me, I'll probably try to take the BART system because it's a lot cheaper, and that'll be about like a 30-minute ride into the downtown, so not bad. So I guess that's what I would say is pay attention to the airports, especially with the regionals. They usually will fly into smaller neighboring airports, not the actual main airports. So especially if you're going to look at, flying one up one way and then another down, just pay attention to what airports you're looking, especially with certain sites. So Skyscanner, I do love using them, but you have to pay attention to what airports are checked, because if you put in San Francisco, it'll actually put in like San Jose and put in that airport as well, which isn't ideal if you're going to downtown San Francisco or like up to Napa. So pay attention to your airports. So that's basically it. I feel like, again, I'm not going to try to get too personal of which airline companies I think are best. I'll let you know that I personally, again, mostly fly American, Southwest, United. Occasionally I'll take Delta because from Tampa to like Atlanta, it's a direct. Again, I guess that's another tip. Sorry. Looking up where airlines are hubs, because when you want nonstop or you want to fly somewhere direct, usually the hub ones have more time available, but they can also be more expensive. So another thing I was going to say is look for ones that have layovers in the place that you want to go to. So if you are flying, let's say, I don't know an example. Let's say you're going to California and you have a layover in Vegas. Let's say, sorry, I got that wrong. Let's say you want to go to Vegas and you find a flight to California and it has a layover in Vegas. There we go. That's what I meant to say. That is probably your ideal one way over, because sometimes you'll get a deal if the city you actually want to go to is the layover. It'll actually end up being cheaper because you decided not to do nonstop, but in the end you tricked the system into making it a nonstop flight for yourself. So do your research. In the end, again, it comes down to what you prioritize. If it's just about price, then I already know you probably don't care about anything I just said, because you're going to go straight for those regionals or straight for whatever the cheapest deal is, the restricted. And that's totally fine. I do that for sure when I'm going on short weekend trips. If you're doing a longer trip though, if you're going international, those are things that, like the on-time arrival percentage, are really important to pay attention to. So any questions, comment, message me. You can follow me on my Instagram. It's sincerely Sarah Lawal.